All right, what's up, everybody? I am back at the desk, in front of the camera, because I want to talk to you today about a topic I've wanted to hit for a while now, and that is the case for teaching cursive penmanship to children. And I'm not really going to try to make the case today, because one, it's a very difficult case to make. I really just want to discuss really explore the possible benefits of teaching cursive to children, or to anybody really, and also kind of the attitudes that I've seen in the calligraphy community about it, and the arguments that I've heard, and what I think about those arguments. And let's just get into it. So let's start with, well, first, the fact that we are seeing in more and more states adopt cursive penmanship as part of their curriculum. I don't know the numbers, but I don't know the trends that are happening. I know we're at right now 15 states plus New York City that are now teaching cursive to kids. I don't know all the details of exactly what they're teaching and when, and what grades, but I know that is the case right now, and I know that is up from lower numbers in the past. So more states are teaching cursive penmanship today than they were 5 or 10 years ago. I believe that is the case. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So we are seeing, for whatever reason, which I'm not going to get into today, we are seeing more people recognize the value of teaching cursive penmanship, recognize the value of teaching cursive penmanship, which is cool. And it's exciting for the calligraphy community. I think we're seeing kind of a renaissance in the calligraphy community as a whole. And for the most part, I've never really met anybody in the calligraphy community that's not happy about that and that doesn't want to see more kids learning cursive penmanship. We're obviously a little biased and we love letters and beautiful letters, and cursive penmanship is kind of one of the first steps to getting into this art form, because most of it, a big part of it is kind of based on basic cursive script. Not based on, but is in the same family. A lot of pointed scripts are in the same family as a cursive script. And having that foundation as a child is really great if you want to get into learning a lot of pointed pen scripts. But there is a lot of arguments I'm hearing from the calligraphy community. A lot of surface level arguments that I'm not excited about. Something I've heard multiple times is that kind of a gripe about how kids these days, young people these days, aren't able to sign their name in cursive. I don't really care about that. Don't think it really matters. Culturally, I recognize that's not something that our culture, or at least an older generation, is going to look down upon that, find that embarrassing or shameful. But for this next generation, I don't think they're going to see it that way, and it's not going to be a big deal. So I think we'll just have to deal with the fact that there's going to be people printing their name to sign it, or just doing some really just completely illegible signature, which you already see with older generation too. So that's kind of my thing, is like, people that did learn cursive, they sign their name in cursive, but I can't read it anyway. It's just a unique mark that they make. So I think as long as people keep making unique marks for their signature, then the status of signatures in America is just okay. And I am talking about America in this video specifically. I don't know the situation in other countries, but I'd love to hear about it. So please leave a comment if you want to share, what's going on in your country as far as cursive penmanship. Another kind of background feeling I get from calligraphers is that, especially older generation, is that we learned this. We had to, we went through the hours and hours of penmanship cursive lessons, and it was really frustrating as a child. And I gained some sense of discipline out of that, and I want to see kids these days go through the same thing that I went through. Now, it's not that there's nothing to that argument, but I don't think it's a very effective one. I do think there is something to say in terms of the discipline aspect. I think for whatever reason, penmanship is not an easy thing to learn, and it requires a consistent effort. And a lot of kids are frustrated when they learn it. And it is one of those things they learn early on in life, that learning can be frustrating, but if you stick with it, you'll make progress and you'll get it, and you'll kind of get over that hump. And that's how things go in life. First, they feel frustrating, but you stick with it and you have a sincere desire to learn it, and you will. So I think there is kind of that part of that argument does hold water. And penmanship is something where you can is a way to learn that. Another kind of thing that I don't think kids are getting as much with the smaller and smaller curriculums of handwriting. Kids are still learning handwriting, of course. They're learning how to print. A lot of kids aren't learning cursive, so they're getting this smaller, condensed curriculum of handwriting education. And with that, they're not getting this opportunity that penmanship gives, which is penmanship is one of the rare things that kids learn at a young age, where they can visibly see their progress. Math is a conceptual thing, and you can see that you're doing better on a test, but you can't visually look at a piece of paper and just see it with your eyes that you've gotten better at math. You just see numbers, and those numbers may be right or wrong, but you can't just look at it. If you want to actually find out if you're doing better at math, you have to sit there, look at the paper, and actually do the calculations intellectually. And with penmanship, it's something that you can just look at. Here's my day one handwriting, and here, at the end of the year, here's what my handwriting looks like now. And unless, as long as the teacher is doing a decent job of teaching penmanship, they're going to see really significant results. And I think that's really empowering to kids to be able to see that visual progress without having to do any math in their head, without having to take a test, without having to have somebody else grade them. They can just look and see, wow, I used to write like this, and now I write like this. And it looks neater, and it's more organized, and it's more beautiful, it's more artistic. I don't really know what other subject in school, besides maybe an art subject, but where kids can see that. And even art, what's going on in art classes, I don't know exactly what's going on, but what I remember from my art classes at a young age, it was much more abstract in terms of the results. So penmanship is you have a very specific goal in mind. So you end up getting results that you can easily see. Whereas in art, it's a little more, kind of abstract in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, I think kids are missing out on that, and I'm sure that has an effect on the way they learn and who they are as people when they grow up. Just not getting that visual feedback at a young age through something they do in school. Everything they do in school is so planned out now. Everything's been analyzed and argued about by a board of directors or by a public school system, and everything has to be related to some future metric and future goal that they have for society and for kids. And there's not just some basic subject they can learn where it's just like, see for yourself. Like here's how the process of learning works, and here's the results that you get when you go through that process. So I do feel bad for kids that they're not really getting that. And correct me if I'm wrong if you think they are getting it in another way. It's not that they're not getting it at all, but I really don't know if penmanship, if anything, does it as well as penmanship. So, and obviously they're getting a little bit with their handwriting, but they're not. If they were to teach cursive, they would get it even more, and they'd get it throughout their early education, as opposed to just those 1 to 2 years where they're learning print writing or manuscript writing. Now the problem, I've just made a couple arguments about things you can learn through penmanship, and the obvious response to that is, well, just because you can learn them through penmanship doesn't mean you can't learn them through other things. And I think that's one of the major issues with making the case for penmanship and why it's so difficult. because all of the direct benefits you get from writing in cursive, let's say, are basically obsolete in our society today. I mean, I'm not saying you won't benefit from writing cursive. You will definitely stand out in the crowd if you have a beautiful cursive hand. But it's not going to, as far as I know, in most cases, it's not going to get you anywhere in terms of, career or advancing in school. You're not writing your papers in cursive anymore. You're probably not writing letters to anybody. You're definitely not sending out resumes with handwritten letters. It's just not done anymore. So all of these kind of practical arguments for cursive penmanship just don't really make a whole lot of sense anymore, which that's just the way it goes with technology. And people can try to make those arguments, and I'm sympathetic to them because I do appreciate cursive writing and seeing it out there in the world. But I just know that the way this world is going, it's just not an argument to really make, and it's not going to convince anybody in authority that they should be teaching cursive penmanship to kids. I think we have to make these below the surface layer arguments about what penmanship brings that no other subject brings. And I think I've talked about the discipline thing and the visual progress and getting that visual feedback through the learning process that penmanship brings. I think those things could be not easily, but there's possibly some other subject in school where kids could get those things. Maybe not as well as penmanship, but maybe as well or even better. Something that I don't think they can get really any other way is an intimate relationship with letter forms, with the symbols that make up our written language. Written language is so important for a human being and if living in this society. It doesn't matter how much technology, and I just don't see any kind of technology making written language obsolete. It's a very convenient way to consume information, and I just find a hard time seeing how technology could drastically change that. So I think we are stuck with written language for a while. We're going to be reading, we're going to be writing, we're going to be communicating mostly with a keyboard and a digital screen. Maybe something will kind of usurp the keyboard as the main method for creating written language or recording written language. But it seems like for the most part, for a long time, we're kind of stuck with this keyboard situation. And I think it's important that people have an intimate relationship with the letter forms that they're writing and reading every day. When kids are just learning, print writing, they're learning one very specific type of letter form, and that's all they're learning. And they're getting an intimate relationship with that specific type, but it's just one type. And now when they go out in the world and maybe they see some handwritten text and they can't read it, or they see a design that uses a font that they've never seen before and they can't decipher it. And it's because they have this very limited experience with letter forms. So I think cursive penmanship has that ability to, diversify the relationship with letter forms, lets them see a different script, lets them gain an intimate relationship with that script. You're not going to gain an intimate relationship by reading fonts on a computer and just by looking at them. You need to get the pen out, the pencil out, the stylus on the iPad, and actually recreate those letters too. That's the only way to really get an ingrained depth of experience with letter forms of different styles. And when you teach cursive penmanship, you give kids an opportunity to gain another intimate relationship with a different script that they've never seen before. And I think just having, print writing and cursive writing, two very basic forms, that really opens up their eyes so that they can read and communicate in different ways. If you learn print and cursive, there's not really very many fonts that you're going to have trouble reading. Maybe some that you need to look a little bit more closely at, but you're going to be able to read just about any font that a designer may use. And if you don't learn cursive, you're going to struggle reading those fonts that have connected letters. I think, I'm not a scientist and I don't have scientific proof to back this up. And I don't really think a lot of the scientific evidence is all that convincing to me as far as handwriting goes. I may or may not get into that in this video. I'm already going long. But I think it just makes common sense that if you have experience with a cursive script, you're going to be able to read it. You're not going to be intimidated by it when you see it in the wild out there in the world. So I think that's just really important. I think it's something that kids are missing these days. And I think it affects everything from reading comprehension to even the ability to write. These are the symbols of our written language are the tools we use to communicate. And being super familiar with those tools and what they look like, what they're supposed to look like, what they may possibly look like, is, I think, just kind of a fundamental skill that kids should have. So yeah, I had one more thing I wanted to talk about, and it's slipping through my mind. So I would think I will end it there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Cursive penmanship seems like it's making a comeback, and I don't really know why it is, but for whatever reason, people are kind of returning to it, and I think that's really cool. And I think there's a lot of work to be done in figuring out exactly what cursive penmanship gives us in a fundamental way. And I would encourage you to think about that and share your thoughts with me. So thanks for watching the video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. You'll get notified when I post something new. And please like the video if you like what you saw and heard here today. And check out my website, perfectbiscuits.com. There you can learn about what I do with penmanship, and you can contact me and find me on social media. So thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.